Hello, and welcome to another episode of Reading Reddit with Amber. Today I have another batch of outrageous stories for you from r/AmITheJerk. Shout out to the people who sent in suggestions for today's video. Our first story is, Am I the jerk for, quote, ruining Christmas by kicking out my daughter-in-law for humiliating me? I have 3 kids, 2 boys, 1 girl. I get along really well with 2 of their spouses. Patrick is a little different. He has always been asocial and introverted and could be cruel to his little sister, making fun of her and putting her and her interests down. Patrick met daughter-in-law 15 years ago. They got married 8 years ago. Daughter-in-law is the one I struggle with. I've tried to be as inviting and warm and loving to her as all the other spouses. She's also mean to my daughter. She makes fun of her and even referred to daughter as a beard because daughter's spouse is effeminate. This year, when baking cookies with my daughter and daughter-in-law told me not to get Patrick any gifts because he doesn't want any and he hates gifts. I've always known Patrick wasn't much for gifts, so would go very simple and practical, thinking of things we could upgrade for him, pots and pans, power tools, etc. But daughter-in-law was very insistent about it this year. He was always appreciative and admitted he could use them, but she insisted, so I didn't get Patrick anything. When we opened presents this year, everyone was laughing and having fun. We get to the end, and daughter-in-law turns and looks at me and says, "Where's Patrick's present?" I said, "You told me not to get him anything, remember?" She said, "No, I didn't." My daughter says, yeah, you did. I was there." Daughter-in-law then laughs and says, "You guys must be off your meds again." Daughter and I both manage mental health issues, so this was an example of daughter-in-law's mean streak. I was so humiliated and upset by her little comment that I just snapped. I told daughter-in-law and Patrick to leave and not to bother coming by again until daughter-in-law can learn how to be a good daughter-in-law, and told Patrick that the way he allows her to trash the members of our own family is just unacceptable. Daughter is on my side, but Christmas was awkward after that, and my husband and other son told me that I overreacted and it's just her sense of humor and that I should be used to it by now. Used to what? Being disrespected and mocked in my own home? But I don't know if my actions were too over the top or not. I know I ruined Christmas for them, but what about me? What about my Christmas? Not the jerk. What was the punchline of daughter-in-law's joke? What was the punchline of daughter-in-law's, quote, joke? That OP and her daughter struggle with mental health? If your sense of humor requires you to demean people for things like their mental health, then what you're saying isn't a joke, it's bullying. Ignoring daughter-in-law's remarks to keep the peace would have allowed her to continue bullying OP and her daughter without consequence. It's about time someone put a stop to her jokes, and OP's husband and son need to stop pushing OP to just deal with the harassment. Downplaying a bully's harassment is not a good look and makes them complicit in OP's mistreatment. Content warning on this next one. We're talking about abortion. So our next story is, Am I the jerk for yelling at my dad, 51-year-old male, and calling him a monster for what he gave my sister, 30-year-old female, as a Christmas gift? I'm a 28-year-old female, and my sister Amanda never met her bio mom. My dad raised her alone until she was barely 1. My dad and my mom got married in 1992. Amanda knew that my mom wasn't her bio mom. She started pressuring my dad for information on her mom when she was around 17. My dad always gave her vague answers and refused to talk about her bio mom, which put a strain on their relationship. Enter our uncle, 49-year-old male, who revealed the family secret. Apparently, Amy's mom wanted an abortion. She was 19, but my dad and his parents were able to bribe her. They offered her money if she followed up with the pregnancy, and she accepted. My grandparents sold one of their houses and gave half of the money to Amy's mom when the pregnancy was viable, and the other half she received when she waived her parental rights over Amy to let my mom adopt her when she was 4. My uncle wasn't supposed to tell her that. My grandparents were furious. Amy stopped her crusade to meet her bio mom, and her relationship with my dad went back to normal. Amy never mentioned her bio mom again. Dad got her into therapy after that. A month ago, Amy found out that she was pregnant. The pregnancy was an accident. She switched birth controls. The problem being, Amy is about to start her surgical residency and her hours are ridiculous. It is basically impossible to raise a baby while working in that rhythm, so she wanted an abortion. The problem is that her fiancé, Mark, who's a 35-year-old male, been together 6 years, wanted her to keep the baby. It caused a big fight. In a jerk move to convince Amy to keep the baby, Mark told Dad about this. Until that point, no one in our family knew about this. Dad talked with her and they got into an enormous fight. Amy went and got the abortion 10 days ago. Mark ended up breaking up with her. She is obviously really sad. My dad was acting like a jerk. He was pretending that Amy didn't exist. He didn't want to talk to or see her. So on Christmas Day, we were exchanging gifts. When everyone had already finished giving each other the gifts, Dad got up and gave Amy her, quote, present. He gave her an envelope in front of everyone and told her to open it. It was 3 pictures with something written on the back, a name, an address, and a phone number. Dad told her he was tired of babying her, that this is a photo of her bio mom and her 2 sons, that was her bio mom's address, and that he had contacted her bio mom and she is willing to speak with Amy. He gave her Amy's number. Dad thinks that they will have a great relationship since they are so similar. Amy broke down crying. I ended up in a fight with my dad, called him a monster for doing that to her. He said he was just tired and left. We ended up leaving, and she spent the rest of Christmas crying on my shoulder. She has been a mess since that. My younger brothers called me a Grinch for making a scene and ruining Christmas. My mom was silent during the whole thing. My parents have been giving me the cold shoulder since Christmas. Am I the jerk here? No, absolutely not the jerk. What OP's dad did is beyond cruel. If your child is grieving and you go out of your way to exacerbate their distress in front of the whole family on what is supposed to be a day of celebration, that's a real jerk move. Ex-fiancé is also a jerk for involving OP's family in what should have been a private medical decision, and it's probably for the best that he's no longer in the sister's life. OP's mom and brothers are also being jerks for not calling out the dad on his behavior and chastising OP for standing up. I'm glad that OP is supporting her sister, and I wish them both the best. Our next story is, am I the jerk for saying my boyfriend should pay more for our future apartment than me? So my boyfriend, who's a 25-year-old male, and I, who's a 25-year-old female, have been together for 6 months. When talking about New Year's resolutions, he mentioned that he'd like us to move in together at some point this year. I thought this was very sweet, so in the past few days we've discussed the logistics of what that transition would entail. Because of the current situation, I lost my job in the service industry and had to move back home with my mom, while he, a software developer, has kept his job and income, just works from home now. As we live in the suburb of a larger city in the US with major dining restrictions, I don't see myself being able to go back to my normal work until after the crisis is over. Come on, vaccines! So I figured maybe I'd just move into his 1-bedroom apartment with him. He, however, says he'd rather have a 2-bedroom to give us more space if we want time apart while living together. I see no problem with this. I figured maybe we could turn the extra room into an entertainment room or some other kind of chill room, so one person can be in the living room or the bedroom and the other can be in the spare room. The problem came when I brought this up to him, and he said he would want the spare room to be his office/man cave. I said, okay, no problem, but if the extra room is specifically going to be your space, I don't think we should go 50-50 on the rent. The more I thought about it, he makes a lot more money than I did when I was employed, think $40,000 versus $70,000, so I said going 50-50 on rent doesn't make sense anyway. He said that it was ridiculous, and that in an equal partnership, we should contribute equally. He also said that because we'd be looking for a place with a bigger kitchen than his current tiny kitchen, and I enjoy cooking, that's the equivalent to his man cave. I disagreed because the only time I cook is to make food for both of us, so just making me a little more comfortable without running into things isn't the same as having a whole room just to myself. I haven't thought of what I'd consider to be a fair percentage of who should pay how much of the rent, but am I the jerk for insisting he should pay more? Not the jerk. Now, I personally am a fan of each partner paying in accordance to their means, so that both partners can build up financial assets, but some people prefer a 50-50 split, and that's okay. This is an area that reasonable people can disagree on. However, I think there are some bigger issues at play here that are worth addressing. It sounds like OP's boyfriend wants to move to a bigger place so he can have more space, and he wants OP's money to finance it. Frankly, it's insulting that he would say that having a bigger kitchen, which OP would use primarily to make meals for the two of them, was the equivalent to him having a whole room for himself. He is asking OP to pay half the rent on a place that would be mostly his domain, which hardly seems fair. I think OP is well within her right, if she does still want to move in with him, to ask to pay less. Our final story of the day is, am I the jerk for using my father's phobia against him for my Christmas prank? Since I was very young, my dad has always made a point of having what he calls gnome phobia. Basically, he says that he had a traumatic childhood experience and can't stand the sight of garden gnomes. As my siblings and I got older, we figured out that this was probably just an elaborate lie to keep Mom from buying more of the cutesy garden decorations that my dad has always hated in other people's lawns. So, cut to Christmas. My dad has this weird nativity set that he puts up every Christmas. It's a set of plastic figurines that comes up to your hip, and it takes up at least a third of the living room, and everyone has always hated it. When I saw someone on Facebook Marketplace selling a set of large-sized garden gnomes, I decided it would be a funny Christmas prank. I bought the gnomes and hid them in the trunk of my car. Christmas Eve, when my parents were asleep, I enlisted the help of my brother to replace all the nativity figures with the garden gnomes. I bought a regular small gnome for baby Jesus. I thought it would be funny to come downstairs Christmas morning and see all the gnomes, but my dad freaked out at me and started demanding where I'd put his nativity set in the trunk of my car. I think everyone was a little caught off guard at how big his reaction was, so I returned the nativity set after apologizing. He stormed upstairs after I returned his stupid nativity set, and my mom told me later that he almost cried. My dad told me he forgave me, and we opened presents after he came back downstairs, but he's been avoiding me in the house ever since. Yesterday my mom told me it was immature and mean of me to use my dad's phobia of gnomes against him like that, and that she wants me to apologize again. I'm so confused and feel bad for upsetting my dad, but they're gnomes, so I don't know if he really has a phobia of them. He's a grown man. Am I the jerk? Yes, OP is the jerk here. If someone tells you they have a phobia, take them at their word. Phobias are irrational fears, so sure, they're going to seem weird to you if you're not phobic, but that doesn't mean that someone is lying or exaggerating about their fear. You've got nothing to lose by not pranking someone with something they say they are afraid of. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving it a like or letting me know in the comments. I post new videos twice a week, on Wednesdays and Sundays, and I'm a guest on Brian's Advice on Thursdays. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.